I grew up in the PSP era. Daxter, Wipeout, Gran Turismo, Luminous. The PSP was such an awesome console and it holds such a special place in my heart. So now that we're in a new era of handheld gaming, it just makes me so excited. And over the past couple of years, I've tried a couple of these handheld consoles. I tried the ROG Ally, the MSI Claw, the ROG Ally X. All very impressive devices for what they can do. Now personally, I landed on the Legion Go as my favorite. I actually recently talked about it in another video. I purchased it with my own money and I kept it. It was my favorite out of them all. I actually just recently took it with me on a flight to Barcelona. I'm still recovering from that jet lag, but I used it on the trip. I played some Cyberpunk. It was awesome. Now, Lenovo hit me up and offered to send me the new Legion Go S, the very one that I saw at CES, to try. Now, I do have to send it back, but I get to spend some time with it and try it out for you guys. And you guys know the drill. I don't do spec dump videos. I don't do typical tech reviews. I try to show you what it's like to use in real life, what you can expect from it in a real world situation. Let's put it through the paces and show you the way that I would actually use it. You know, I really liked the original Legion Go. It felt like the most future-proof handheld console. You've got the detachable controllers, the kickstand, the ability to use it as a singular device while your controllers are over here. Made it a great form factor for playing on a plane or a train or things like that. Not to mention the insane screen. I mean, so many people talk about it, and I mentioned it in my last video. It feels damn near OLED. It is a beautiful, gorgeous, well contrasted, extremely vibrant screen. And then you've got the Z1 Extreme in here. The Z1 Extreme was a pretty good chip for a handheld, decent performance, running AAA games like Cyberpunk, Call of Duty. But there was definitely one major issue with the Legion Go, at least for some people. It was a standout device because unlike a lot of the other devices on the market, it came in its own category. Big, bulky, heavy, way more features than most people would probably use. I mean, you could detach the controller and literally use it as a mouse, which ironically the new Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be able to do. There were so many buttons and configurations, and you had the kickstand mode. It was truly a give it to you all device. And then the other thing that a lot of the handhelds in the space were plagued by, battery life. Battery life is just extremely subpar. You pick it up, you start playing a AAA game on battery on performance mode, and you're gonna get maybe like an hour of gameplay out of it. So Lenovo definitely took some notes and decided to attack the market in a couple of different stages. And this is one of those stages, the Legion Go S. This is Lenovo's attempt to compete more directly with devices like the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally. It's lighter, more compact, better ergonomics, and powered by the new Ryzen Z2 Go. Now here's the interesting thing. They're coming out with two versions of the device. This one is the Windows device. This is the one that I have. But there's another one coming out next month that's going to be running Steam OS. Now, if you know anything about the Steam Deck and Steam OS, it's highly efficient and great on battery power. So there's a good chance that the version that's running Steam OS is going to be a much more efficient device. But that's going to be traded off with the fact that unlike Windows, you can't run all games on it. Games like Call of Duty, which require anti-cheat software, just typically don't work. Now here's the other kicker. The Steam OS version is going to drop the price significantly, which kind of leaves me scratching my head a little bit. So my question is, if you buy the Steam OS version, can you still dual boot it and load Windows on it? If so, I don't know why anyone would buy the Windows version. And I already know that the Windows version can be dual booted to run the Steam OS version, although there's not an official way to install Steam OS on it. You can use a separate program. I think it's called Bizite. I'll put it right here. Anyways, a lot to be said about the first stage of the second generation of these devices. I think it's time to put it to the test. So I spent the past day setting this thing up, configuring it, installing all of my games. First of all, Windows really needs a different type of system for handhelds. I mean, that's where SteamOS really gets it right. I had to go through countless declining offers of Microsoft 365, setting up Windows settings. And then there really has to be an easier option to back up everything, like literally everything from Windows, because I had to install Steam, I had to install emulators, I had to install all my games from Xbox, download all the games from Steam. It takes a long time. Now you guys wouldn't have to do this over and over and over again, but every single device I test, I have to do this. It's quite a lot of work. And that leaves me with the fact that I had this thing fully charged when I left the studio yesterday, and it is basically dead now. And that was all just from configuring. I haven't played a single game on it yet. One of the first things I did when I started setting up this device was install emulators. I originally used EmuDeck, which is just an app that installs a bunch of emulators for you on devices like the Steam Deck or the Legion Go. I did have a couple of issues with the install of RetroArch, so I actually had to go and download the manual files. I found the solution through Reddit. Once you download the manual files, you just copy it over to the folder and it fixes it. And remember how I said I grew up in the PSP era? Yeah, this throws a lot of nostalgia my way because I can even play PSP games on this device. I had a lot of fun going back in time playing Pokemon Crystal and Daxter and even Luigi's Mansion from GameCube days. And the cool thing about these emulators is they don't use a ton of power because these are older devices that were designed to run these games. So you can put this in power saving mode and just play for hours. So if retro gaming is your thing, you're gonna like devices like this, but this isn't unique to the Legion Go S. You can do it on almost any of those devices out there like the ROG Ally X or even the MSI Claw. Which leads me to my next point. What happens when you're not playing low intensity games? After all, this is a new generation console. It's designed to be improved upon. So where do we stand against the original Legion Go or some of the other devices on the market? I was able to install Cyberpunk, Helldivers, Call of Duty, well, Warzone, a couple other games. So today we finally get to actually try this thing. So I was supposed to get this device before I left for my flight to Barcelona, but Lenovo unfortunately wasn't able to get it to me in time for my flight. It literally arrived the day after I left. I love when that happens. So I haven't actually traveled with it yet, but I've been using it on the go locally. I want to keep it real and straight with you guys. I think this device has a bit of an identity crisis, but we'll get to that. Off the gate, I can say it is much lighter and more portable than the original Legion Go. It definitely feels a lot more ergonomic and comfortable in the hands due to the reduced weight, as well as the repositioned controllers and adjustments. The charger is still a little bit bulky, but it's really not a big deal. It's no bigger than any other standard USB-C GAN charger that I use, which delivers 100 watts to my devices, so I just use that instead. Now, one thing that's really interesting is unlike the OG Legion Go, okay, you know what I just realized? I didn't notice it at first, but as I was unboxing this, there's no case in here. Let's ask ChatGPT if it's supposed to come with one. Is anyone else using ChatGPT as Google now? I feel like that's all I do. Yeah. You do too, right? Yeah. Hey, does the Legion Go S come with a hard shell case?
Hey, the Legion Go S typically doesn't come with a hard shell case included. You probably need to buy one separately. Have you checked out any third-party options?
No, I'm just asking because my Legion Go, it came with a hard shell case, and that's pretty standard for the Legion Go, right?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, the Legion Go often includes a case, but the Legion Go S is a newer, more budget-friendly model, so the included accessories can differ. It's always good to double-check the box contents or product listing.
Budget-friendly? I don't know about that. There's no hard case, no travel shell. I guess you're just supposed to put it in your bag as is. The original Legion Go that I have came with a hard shell case, which was nice because it protected it. It took up more space, which sucked, but it protected it as I was traveling with it, prevents stick drift, all those kinds of things. There's no case in here for a $749 price point and a downgraded version of the device. There's no hard shell case. That's interesting. So given that it doesn't come with a case, if you want to travel with it, you're either going to have to throw it in a bag and risk damaging the screen or the joysticks, or buy a third-party case for it. So aside from emulators, I also tested quite a few AAA games, starting with Warzone, which I expected to run pretty well because It ran well on the Legion Go. It wasn't always the case though. It did have issues initially, but it seems to have been optimized. And fortunately, it runs pretty well on the Legion Go S as well. Ironically, it runs better than a lot of other games that I tested. Obviously, you're trusting the opinion of one person when it comes to watching a review, so I let my buddy John, who also owns a Legion Go and is also a content creator on the side, try it out, and this is what he thought.
It's supposed to be better than the Z1.
It's not. The Extreme is better than that. The Z1 Extreme that's in our Legion Go is better than the chip in that.
Oh, are they just gonna come out with like a Z2
Extreme? That's gonna be in the Legion Go too. I will agree.
It feels in your hands. It feels good. But I mean, this is also gonna be kind of the same grip that they have on the Legion 2, right?
I don't know. I don't remember what it was like when we held it at CES.
I remember it felt great whenever we held it at CES. It definitely feels better. You get these, which is nice, which you don't have with the Legion Go.
Mm-hmm.
The paddles are still there. I wish they would have did a second paddle, which, I mean, you only get on one side with that one. And then the little mouse is kind of sad compared to what you get on that.
It is a lot lighter.
Yeah, it is a lot lighter. Like, you play with that one just like sitting like this for 30 minutes and your forearms start to hurt. You get the same SD card, but it's at the bottom. An extra USB-C. They moved the volume rockers. Well, I guess, no, oh, they just moved both USB-Cs to the top, and so you don't get an extra one. I mean, it's like weight difference is night and day, dude. So I can see how it's more comfortable, but at this price point, I might as well go get
an OLED Steam Deck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we both agree that playing emulators is one of the coolest and best ways to use these devices, and it's pretty efficient, but you can already do that on your phone. So aside from that, you're really relying on the power and capabilities of the device to play games, AAA PC games that you normally wouldn't be able to play on the go. So because the Legion Go S is a lighter, more ergonomic handheld, it does really good in situations like late night gaming in bed or just casual gaming on the couch. This is where lighter handhelds win. Now, the Legion Go S does get warm and the fans do kick on pretty loud, but after doing some testing, you'll never really notice the warmth where you're holding it. It is channeled appropriately. I tested the temperature on the grips and it's just normal. Most of the heat is coming from the center of the device or the exhaust vent. As far as feel, the buttons and the sticks feel really good, especially compared to some of the other devices out there, and I love the adjustable triggers. But here's the problem. It's definitely one of the better feeling handheld consoles out there, but does it have the performance to back it up? I don't really think so. You know, the most frustrating thing about this is that it's going to be hit or miss when it comes to performance. You don't know what you're gonna get. For example, Grand Theft Auto 5 just did not run as well as I would have expected it to for a 10-year-old game. But then you look at brand new games that have historically struggled to run well, like Call of Duty Warzone, and it's doing fine. I was even having issues with Helldivers too. For some reason during the cutscenes, it just glitches out a ton. And once I changed it to a 1280 by 800 resolution, the performance was fine in gameplay, but you would notice it stuttered here and there. I think that's the problem with creating handheld consoles like these with the low tier chips in them like the Z2 Go. These days, developers aren't optimizing their games as well as they would in the past, so you kind of have to go with an overkill GPU and CPU to just run everything smoothly. That doesn't work for a lower tier chip like this. That's when you run into one game running fine and others giving a ton of issues, and you have to rely on the manufacturer to drop drivers updates over time for it to get better. I wanted to see how well this thing performs as a mini console, so I plugged it into my TV. And unfortunately, the first time I used my USB-C adapter, it didn't work, but after trying another USB-C adapter, it for some reason did work. I run into the same issue with my Thunderbolt 4 dock. When I connect it, I have to restart it for it to notice the monitors. I'm not sure if this is an AMD or a USB 4 thing, but once I got it working, it's actually pretty cool. If you try to run it as a console for AAA or high tier games, it's going to degrade performance significantly to the point where I don't even think you can play. But if you're playing light games, things like Emulators or Stardew Valley, it'll work just fine. I could definitely see a situation where you set this up with an emulator, connect a separate controller, and play some Mario Kart with friends. But like I said, to set realistic expectations, don't expect to play Warzone or some other AAA game while you're connected to an external monitor. So I've had this for about 3 weeks now, and I'm just struggling to understand where it fits in, because it's not a bad device by any means whatsoever. But as someone who had the original Legion Go, and knowing what it costs now to get the Ryzen Z1 Extreme chip in it, with all of the additional features, because it has a better screen, it's got the detachable joysticks, it's got the built-in kickstand, the FPS mode, all of those things. And then you've got the Legion Go S, which is more portable, it's light, it doesn't have the detachable controllers, it actually has a smaller resolution screen, and it's got this new Ryzen Z2 Go chip in it, which isn't as powerful as the Z1 Extreme, and isn't really, at least by my testing, much more efficient at all. And if you want it, it comes in more expensive than the Legion Go. So naturally, you would compare this to something like the ROG Ally X, which has the Z1 Extreme in it, which means you could get the same kind of device, but it's more powerful. I'm not really understanding why Lenovo and Legion came to the market with this device in a category of devices that already exist at such a high price point. Okay, so as I'm editing this video, I'm looking at Best Buy's website, and I just learned that there is going to be a couple of versions of the Legion Go S, which I was not aware of. There is the Legion Go S Windows, which is what I have. That's the one I've been reviewing right now. There's gonna be the Legion Go S Steam OS, which we knew was coming. That's gonna be priced at $599. The Windows one is currently $729. But there's also going to be a Legion Go S with the Z1 Extreme. That switches things up just slightly, but that's gonna be $829.99. So you've got your basic PC games, right? Like Stardew Valley. It ran phenomenally at 60 frames per second, which by the way is the cap for Stardew, and it was on power saving mode. Did not struggle at all. When you get into some more intense gaming, that's where your mileage is going to vary. Forza had a weird issue where only FSR 2 was available, and no matter what I did, whether I set it to quality or ultra performance or change the screen resolution or change my power profile, performance always hovered between 40 to 50 frames per second at native res, with all of my settings set to low. That said, 40 to 50 frames per second was still fun. It was very playable and it was a good experience. I've mentioned this before, but Cyberpunk is such a fun game to play on games like this because it's a story mode, it doesn't require a dedicated internet connection. I was getting about 50 to 55 frames per second in performance mode. Honestly, I love playing this game so much. I can't believe it took me so long to come around to it. It's really such an enjoyable game. So if you haven't had a chance to play it yet and you've been wanting to, I highly recommend you download the game and give it a shot. GTA 5, a 10-year-old game, performed so much more poorly than I expected. I was getting 25 to 30 frames per second with AMD FSR 3 on performance. And it was playable, but it felt like I was back in the PS3 days graphics-wise, which definitely should not happen on a 10-year-old game. Halo Infinite, well, the first time it did not run well at all. It was stuttering and it took forever to load. The second time, however, it ran pretty well. I was getting between 50 and 60 frames per second, but every single time I load it, it's a lottery as to whether or not it's gonna work well or not. And at one point, my gun just kept firing for no reason whatsoever. I mentioned Helldivers was rough in the beginning, but as I got through it more, it wasn't too bad. I set it to 1280-800, played a lot better. I was getting mid 30 to 40 frames per second, but the cutscenes struggled hard. And then Warzone, all low settings, of course, with the exception of texture resolution set to normal. I had it set to FSR 3 Ultra Performance with frame gen on, set at native resolution, 50% VRAM target, which is really important because if you don't set that, it can crash. And I was getting about 50 to 60 frames per second on a custom TDP of 18 watts. I'd get about a 5 to 10 frame per second boost on performance, so it depends on how smooth you want it to be. Now, it's nowhere near the experience of playing on a PC, but it is playable and you get your fix on the go. Zero chance of competitive gaming though. And then we have the not so honorable mention, Cities Skylines 2, which I expected to play well, was actually barely playable. I started at about 10 to 15 frames per second, and when I switched to the lowest possible settings, which made it look like a PS1 at 1280 by 800, We got 20 frames per second with no city built at all. A lot of people on Reddit just say that this game is not optimized, so I gave up. And Fortnite, believe it or not, I could not get this to run stable. Despite me getting decent frames per second, it would lag every couple of seconds, including the audio. Now, Fortnite seems to have issues with AMD in general. Everyone I know that has an AMD processor has issues with it, so maybe this is related, but regardless, it just wasn't running well. Okay, Legion Go S. It is hands down a huge improvement, weight-wise, ergonomics, the feeling of the controller, the ability to adjust your triggers. It feels like a much more rounded device than the Legion Go was. And the Legion Go isn't bad, I love it. It just feels like one of those like first to the market type devices where it just kind of like throws everything at the wall and sees what sticks. I'm really excited to see the Legion Go 2 build on top of these improvements, but that's kind of where everything gets blurry. So this model of the Legion Go S, the 32 gigabyte Ryzen Z2 Go, retails for $729.99, and the SteamOS version is going to retail at $599.99. I'll be honest with you, I would never pay for this at $729.99. I just wouldn't. A lot of people ripped me over my Logitech G Cloud review, and the reason I didn't like that is because I felt like devices like this, like the ROG Ally, are just so much better, especially when they're only a couple $100 more. But then you look at this and it's $729.99, and it barely outperforms the Steam Deck. Matter of fact, the Steam Deck OLED is cheaper and pretty much carries the same performance and a little bit better efficiency. But they're also coming out with another Legion Go S with the Z1 Extreme running Windows. That's gonna be $899.99. And the Z1 Extreme running SteamOS, that's going to be $829.99. This device with the Z1 Extreme is gonna be an awesome device, but the Z1 Extreme is last year's chip. Why are we not just putting the Z2 Extreme in it? It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. The Legion Go 2 is supposed to have the Z2 Extreme. Can we get this form factor with the performance of the Z2 Extreme? Maybe it's a heat thing, I don't know, but I don't know why you would also pay $800 for a device with an old chip in it. So I'm gonna be frank with you. I would love this device if it was closer priced to $500, but at its current price point, I can't recommend it. I love it, but I can't recommend it. What I really want, my wish list, is this device with the Z2 Extreme around a $750 or $800 price point. And if they want to add some icing to the cake, throw an OLED in there, but the screen is already so good anyways, I don't think it's necessary. I want to give a huge thanks to Lenovo for sending this out and allowing me to try this and share my honest thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Hopefully I'm not too far off from you guys like I was with the G Cloud. I know it's been a long video, so thanks for sticking around, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.